Hey saddle hunters, thanks for tuning in to the saddle hunting channel here on YouTube again. I appreciate your support. If you guys could do me a big favor, if you like this content, just click the like button below. That really helps me out. Well, in today's video, I'm bringing you another saddle review. You know, if you've been following kind of the saddle hunting world for really the past year, you have been seeing companies pop up left and right that you haven't heard of, and you kind of wonder, who are they? What are they doing? Do they really know how to make a saddle? And it's kind of gotten hard to keep track of all the different mom and pop shops that have popped up. I really like that. I love seeing innovation. I love seeing small companies. I think that's what the American dream and the American business is all about. And so I'm excited to try to help some of those types of companies out. Well, the company we're talking about today is Custom Gear Modifications, and you may be only familiar with that name for the last 6 months or so, but let me tell you, the guys behind Custom Gear Modifications, Jerry and John Gross, have been a part of the saddle hunting community, especially the DIY community, for years and years and years, producing really neat ideas that have helped launch this community into what it is today. Well, they decided that they had the skill set and the desire to go out on a limb and start a company, and so they've started Custom Gear Modifications, and they're doing a lot of really neat things. You might remember earlier in the year I reviewed their dropout bag, which was just a fantastic piece of gear. If you're a one sticker, check that video out. But they are also launching some saddles, and I have with me today their first saddle offering. This is the Sidewinder. Gets its name from that snake kind of pattern on the molly webbing. Guys, this is a really cool saddle. As you can see, you've probably never seen anything like it. There's a ton of features packed into this saddle, and it's minimalistic, but it's really comfortable. So we're going to walk you through all of the features that are packed into this saddle in a tabletop review here in just a second. But before we do that, I just wanted to give you a little background. This saddle is only going to cost you $175. And some people might go, how are they offering a saddle for $175? That seems crazy. There are other people that are $275 or $300. And you would be correct. And I want to just tell you, they're not giving this saddle out at $175 because they're making it cheaply. The build quality and the materials are the same, if not better, than many other companies out there. So how are they offering it at such a good price? Well, they're not one of these fritzy companies that is spending tons of money on marketing. They don't have a $10,000 camera to shoot 30-second ads, okay? They don't have 5 sewing machines that cost $8,000 a piece, okay? They are a couple guys that are making these in limited quantities on really high quality machines, but they're controlling the marketing costs, they're controlling material costs. One of the things that they're doing is buying webbing at a discounted rate because it's mismatched or it's kind of discolored. And not that it looks bad, but it's from batch to batch, it might vary. And so the company can't sell it at full price. You're not going to see Tether produce 2 Phantoms, for example, that are slightly different colors because they got different webbing. Well, my Sidewinder might look a little bit different than your Sidewinder when it comes to the color of the webbing, but by buying that miscolored or mismatched webbing, they can save 50% on the cost of the materials, and so that's a big deal. Another thing, you know, not everybody likes snake pattern webbing, so you can probably get that a little cheaper. So I'm here to tell you that the materials are not cheaper, but they're getting them at a discounted price. So that gives you a little background. Excellent company. I've been very impressed with the quality of this saddle. So let me put it on the tabletop here. We'll talk you guys through the many features that this saddle has. Got the saddle laid out on the table here. And before we get started, I just want to mention that this saddle comes in 3 different sizes. A small for waists up to 34 inches. This is a medium for waists up to 38 inches, and then a large for waists up to 44 inches. And the medium that I have here in this configuration weighs 23 ounces, so 1 pound 7 ounces. To give you an idea of specs, when the saddle is kind of fully open like that, it's a smidge over 13 inches from top to bottom. The mesh in the middle is about 27 inches wide, and from bridge loop to bridge loop is about 38 inches. So should give you just a good idea of reference. In order to get started here, the first thing I want to point out to you is the shape of this saddle. You'll notice, similar to the Phantom, it kind of has that football shape. And I've mentioned this in other videos, but in all the saddles I've tested, I have found that it's extremely important, especially for the top of the saddle, to have a curve to it. The curve on the bottom helps out as well, but when the saddle is curved on the top, it makes it tremendously more comfortable and far less hip pinch than a saddle that is just a straight cut across the top. And just for reference, here's a straight edge. You can see just how much this saddle curves. So significant amount of curve to it, and in my opinion, that helps to make this a very comfortable saddle. But let's jump on now. That's a little bit about the construction. It's 2-inch webbing on the top and the bottom, and you can see here that there's some additional webbing going on. So let's just walk through how the saddle is constructed and look at more of its features. The first thing you'll notice is that it has this kind of snake pattern molly webbing at the top. And the molly, in my opinion, is sewn very, very well. It's tight, but it's not like super crazy tight. You know, it's easy enough to open and get the tri-glides for your pouch through there, but then tight enough that they stay put. I think the molly is done well. There is gear loops on each end of the molly, so if you want to clip a carabiner to it, you can do that. In my opinion, it's nice to have just a couple gear loops. I'm not a big fan of these saddles. There's some on the market that have just tons of gear loops instead of molly. It doesn't work for a lot of the pouches that guys are running, so I think this is a good mix to have 1 or 2 gear loops and then traditional flat tight molly. It works very, very well in my opinion. You can see here that the lineman loops are very stiff, very rigid. They stay open well, they hold their shape, they're easy to find in the dark, they protrude nicely from the point of your hip. In my opinion, they're in just the right position, at least for my body in this size medium. You can see it's a very robust design. Underneath the molly, you can see there's a second darker webbing there. That is what forms the lineman loop. So that piece of molly comes down, or webbing rather, comes down, makes the loop, and then wraps around, goes the entire length of the saddle, and creates the second loop and comes back around. I like that because it also gives the saddle a little bit more rigidity. So you have the top strap, but then you have this second strap, which just helps to distribute pressure more, and I think that's a good feature. Looking down here on the bottom of the saddle, you'll notice that there are loops. There's no molly down here, just one single loop at the end. And that's designed for use when you're SRT climbing or one stick climbing and rappelling out of the tree. If you're using a device like an ATC or a figure 8, you often want to use a third hand knot below the device to back it up. Well, you can tie that third hand knot right onto this loop, and it just puts it in the perfect location. So really a thoughtful feature from Jerry and the guys at Custom Gear Modification. If we'll move over here to the bridge loops, you'll notice they are reinforced with some black webbing and triple stitched. Well done. They're not the stiffest loops I've ever seen, but they're not the weakest either. And to me, the stiffness helps, but it's not essential. What I look for in a bridge loop is that it's stiff enough that this knot will not slip. So you can see the construction of the bridge here as well. There's the am steel that is kind of tied in a prusik onto the bridge loop, and then it's tied in a prusik or a schwabiche onto the Oplux bridge. Now, what you want to make sure is that these bridge loops are stiff enough that this knot does not slip up and down. I've seen that on a couple saddles now, and this one doesn't slip. If I weight this knot and pull on it, I mean, I'm pulling on it, and it just does not move. It holds very, very well. So the bridge loops do what they're designed to do, and in my opinion, do it well. So moving on, let's talk about the bridge. The bridge is 8mm Oplux. It's tied at each end with a double overhand stopper knot and then sealed off with just some shrink wrap. Done nicely, very clean. You can see it is adjustable on both sides. The nice thing is you can cinch this bridge until those two prusiks tie together and really pull the saddle in nice and tight on your body for the walk in. The bridge itself is 36 inches long, so you have plenty of room for any length that bridge that you want. I can't see you really ever needing to go the full 36, but it's there if you want it. So I really like this bridge. It rolls through the carabiner nicely, and the prusiks move and adjust very smoothly. and in my opinion, just works well. It's lightweight, easy to tuck in and get out of the way. You hardly even know it's there. We look at the inside of the saddle. Let's start down here at the bottom. The leg straps attach right there in the middle. These are removable leg straps, so if you're not a fan of leg straps, you can take them off. And then they use G-hooks, so they are side specific. You want to make sure that the G-hook's oriented down. And then the loops for the G-hooks are right there on the outside corner. And in my opinion, they're in just the right spot. You can see if I hook that up, that strap is going to run more horizontal across my leg, which in my opinion is a whole lot more comfortable. I don't like those straps running straight up, you know, the middle of your legs and putting pressure where no guy especially wants pressure. So these, in my opinion, are quite comfortable and located in the right spot. Moving on to the top of the inside of the saddle, you'll notice the belt is very unique. This is a design that I haven't seen before, and I've tried a lot of saddles. They are using an AM steel, piece of AM steel, kind of in like a whoopee sling configuration for the belt. Very easy to adjust. So I've got it somewhat tight now. All you have to do to loosen it is grab down here on what would be my left side and put a little pressure, and it releases and opens very easily. This is about 55 inches long, so plenty of adjustment for most any waist size. To tighten it, all you have to do is grab the other end, and you can see once again both ends are finished with a shrink wrap. But to tighten it, you're just going to pull it, and I like to make sure that the constriction is expanded and it grabs. And I'll show you this with a pouch on, but I put a pouch on it with 3 pounds and done a significant amount of walking in it, and I haven't had mine slip or loosen up. It's quite tight for normal usages, but you will notice if I grab both ends in this configuration and just crank on it, I can get it to slip, but it takes a lot of pressure to do that. And in my opinion, even if you were, you know, walking around and it happened to slip, not that big a deal, because that's all you got to do to tighten it back up. I like this bridge, or excuse me, I like this waist belt rather, because it adjusts so quickly and so easily. I make a lot of on-the-fly adjustments because I'm a sitter in the saddle with my belt, and this just makes it really, really easy. So I like that AM steel. Now, if you don't like that, contact Jerry. He can probably make a rope belt or a traditional style belt. They're called custom gear modifications. So I'm sure he'll work with you and get you whatever belt you want. And it's really easy to change it out because they are using a belt sleeve. So there's a piece of webbing sewn on the inside here that AM steel is just routed through. So you could pull that out and put whatever kind of belt you wanted through this belt sleeve. The other neat thing is that because it's run through the sleeve, it's not fixed. So I can pull the, you know, constrictor knot all the way to one side if I want. I can pull it around to the other side and position it wherever I want on my body. And so that's a really, really nice, helpful feature. So one last thing I'll mention on the inside of the saddle is that this saddle is sourced and made right here in the USA, and I know that's important to a lot of people. So wanted to point that out. The last thing, or feature really, that I wanted to show you about this saddle is kind of that rigger's belt feature. So you'll notice there's that G-hook right here at the top and a loop. And they've configured this so that G-hook rather, goes through the loop, and it makes the saddle from top to bottom about 5 inches. So it makes it super compact for the walk-in. Guys, there's only 1 or 2 saddles that are even anywhere in the same neighborhood as this saddle when it comes to wearability and packability for the walk-in. It just gets so compact. It's like wearing a belt. Fantastic feature. Now, when I wear it in like that, I just hook up the leg straps and run them behind my legs. And I'll show you a clip of that. But if you try to run them in front of your legs while you're walking in, you get it kind of pulling on you in funny directions, and it doesn't work out real well. So run them behind your legs and you'll have great success. But this is a fantastic budget saddle packed with tons and tons of features. So let me take it to a tree now. We'll put it on, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit about comfort. All right, guys, so I'm out here in the woods, got the saddle on. I just want to show you a little bit about how I wear it into the woods to give you some helpful tips and tricks. So you can see I've got the saddle pulled up, it's loose. All I'm gonna do to put it on is grab the am steel with my thumb, pull that right out in front of me, then I'm gonna grab the tag end and then just pull it tight across. You can see it's gonna cinch down. I'm gonna release it. I like to then move it into the center of my body and give it a second tug, and then I just make sure that that constrictor is pulled all the way out. A few things to keep in mind with that constrictor. First, you'll notice on the table I was able to pull it when it was straight away like that apart with a pretty good amount of force. One of the things to keep in mind is if it's on an angle at all, which most people are going to have a slight curve in it due to their belly, it doesn't pull out as much. You can see with a little bit of curve in there, I'm pulling it and it doesn't go anywhere. So for most guys, you're not going to experience any sag with it. I have a couple pound rappel pouch on here right now, and I haven't noticing it slip. But if you are concerned about slip, all you're going to do with the tag end of this, run it up underneath the belt, then go down through that loop to make a half hitch, pull that half hitch tight, and it will not move. It's impossible for it to pull apart with that half hitch in there. It blocks the constrictor. So that's quick and easy. Then when you get to the tree, super fast to just pull that half hitch out. So this is a very functional belt, guys. For the quick adjust advantages that you get from this, I really, really like it. So then I'm just gonna tuck the rest of my tag end in there. I'm gonna take my bridge, pull it all the way tight. You can see how close they get. Then I'm just gonna wrap it around my body and tuck it into the belt there. And now I'm ready to walk in, and I'll spin around here so you can see just how compact this is. It's totally above my hips. It's not gonna sag down at all on the walk. There's nothing on my butt to get in the way or, you know, give you that diaper feel while you're walking in. This is a really, really comfortable saddle to wear in, and it carries weight like this very, very well. So now that I've shown you a little bit about how it wears in, I'm gonna jump on the tree here and talk you through some of the features and some of the thoughts I have about its comfort. Oh, I forgot. Before we jump into the tree, there's a couple other things I wanted to mention to you about how this wears in. So first, you can see how I've got my leg straps run behind me there. One thing I've noticed with that, you just want to make sure that they're kind of pulled tight and don't have a lot of slack in them. I've noticed the slack, they can kind of work themselves out, but pull them a little tight and you can see they're just there behind my legs. Then nothing is pulling on you on the walk in, just really, really comfortable. The other thing I want to talk about is this G-hook system in the back. You know, it can be kind of difficult to work that out of there. One of the things that I've found super helpful is to take my left hand, and I'm right-handed, but to take my left hand and just kind of put it on the loop there, and then work the G-hook with my right hand. Easy enough to slide out, to put it back in, same thing. Just kind of pop that open with my left hand, work the hook in. I'm ready to go. That's all there is to it. So that's just a helpful trick. That thing's very secure. I haven't had it slip out at all, which is what you want. So now we're gonna jump in the tree and we're gonna talk about comfort a little bit. All right, so I'm hooked up, hanging in the saddle now, and I just want to give you some of my thoughts on a few of the features in the tree and comfort a little bit. So the bridge is fantastic, really easy to adjust. So you'll see even right now it's weighted. If I want to adjust it, I just got to stand up, and those prussiks moves just really, really easily along the bridge. Just some of them, you know, they lock down so tight that they're just hard to adjust. Not this one, just super easy adjustment, so I like that. You can see that oplex rolls pretty easily through the carabiner, so that's not anything you would have an issue with if you wanted to turn around and take a 6 o'clock shot or something like that. So this bridge, guys, I'm really, really impressed with. You can see I'm leaning in it right now, and for leaning, I like to have the prussiks adjusted along the bridge loops somewhere right near the middle or just slightly above. I've probably got 1.5 inches of the black showing above the prussik right now, and for me, that's pretty comfortable. It distributes the pressure very evenly across this saddle. And you know, guys, some single panel saddles like this, you feel a lot of the pressure on the straps and not much pressure gets carried by the mesh. In this saddle, I feel like the pressure for me is just evenly distributed. Now that could be my body shape, but especially for leaning, very, very comfortable. Just even pressure, no hot spots. For me, it's working really, really well. So I want to show you how the loops move along the bridge. So right now they're about in the middle. You can see if I pull it all the way up, they move easy enough even after being weighted. I want you to watch that and see if it sets at all when I sit down into it. You see that? It holds. I can bounce on it and it stays put. So let's try it all the way down on the bottom. Some saddles, they'll walk a pretty good way along the bridge, and that's just not been bridge loops rather, and that's just not been my experience in this saddle. It seems to hold pretty well wherever you put it, and as you can see, the adjustments are easy enough to make. So big fan of the bridge. It's just well done. So you can see the lineman loops there are very well located. I'll give you a clip right now of me climbing up the tree. They're just in the right spot. They don't stick out too big. They're not too bulky. They're pretty low profile, but they're wide. They're easy to clip into. So that's really nice. I like these little gear loops. You know, for some of these climbing styles like SRT or one stick, you often have more carabiners around. And so to be able to clip a carabiner into one of those gear loops is really a helpful feature. So guys, this saddle's nice. I didn't have any comfort complaints with the Phantom. For my body style, it worked very well. And this just has a little bit more material than the Phantom. It's a little more than 1.5 inches taller, a couple inches wider, and it just seems to make a big difference for me. It gives me really good support. For leaning, it's very comfortable. But for me, as a lot of you know, push comes to shove on a saddle test when I sit in it. So let me lower down the tether here. We'll sit in it. I like to sit so that my knees are just slightly lower than they are right now. Probably, you know, 110 degrees or so. Not 90, just a little bit higher than 90. And then I can sit down. Now, I've tested this saddle for a lot of hours, as I do every saddle. I won't do a review unless I've sat in that saddle for at least a minimum of 12 hours in a lot of different trees, because that makes a big difference. I've had some variation of this saddle since late May and have put a lot of time in it. And I've been very impressed with it, guys. There's not been a lot of single panel saddles that I've held on to over the years, but I'm gonna hold on to this one because I'm really impressed with it. It's just got a lot of good features. It's a really good price, and it's comfortable. For sitting like this, I'm not getting any hip pinch. The saddle distributes my weight very well. I don't feel like I have to move a whole lot. I'm not having it you know, run up on me. You can see I don't have the leg straps attached right now. If you were worried about the saddle kind of running up on you, you could use the leg straps. I find that the saddle riding has a lot to do with the bridge adjustment. So on saddles that don't have the ability to change the position of the bridge along the bridge loop, I think they're a little bit more prone to kind of ride up in the back. But if you have them adjusted in the right spot, and typically for me it's kind of right near the middle on this saddle, and you use the leg straps, you're not going to have this saddle ride up. Now, some body types may just be more prone to that, but I'm telling you, in my experience, I haven't had that issue with this saddle. So it's been good. I've enjoyed it. I think it's a really comfortable saddle. I don't really have any complaints. You know, I think the Amsteel bridge, once you figure it out, works very well. I love all the features that are packed into this. One of the biggest things that I look for in a saddle nowadays is how well does it carry in. You know, a lot of times I'm running and gunning and I'm scouting on my way in, and I don't know if I'm gonna even hang in a tree, and I don't wanna be walking 3 miles in some baggy saddle. This is a fantastic saddle for walking in. So if that's your style, this may be a fantastic saddle to try out. And Jerry and those guys, they can do any kind of modifications to it that you want. If you want a different color webbing, tell him. He'll put a different color webbing on it. He can add things, I'm sure. They're just a fantastic company to work with. I've enjoyed getting to know them a lot. Guys, I'm very impressed with the Sidewinder saddle. For leaning and for sitting, it just works. It's well thought out. All the features do what they're supposed to do. They function extremely well. I can't find a downside. Now, guys, this is just my experience. Every saddle is gonna fit every person differently. It may not work for your body type, but I'm telling you, this to me is probably the most comfortable and versatile traditional single panel saddle that I've ever sat in. You know, the kind without a pleat or anything extra. This is just really good, and it comes in at a super friendly price. So You gotta like that. So appreciate you guys watching this. Let me give you a few closing thoughts and we'll wrap this review up. Thanks for sticking with me, everybody, as we talked about the Custom Gear Modifications Sidewinder. I hope I was able to bring across not only the quality of this saddle, but just the really unique set of features that it's got, guys. It's a minimalistic saddle, similar in design to the Phantom. In my opinion, it wears into the woods better than the Phantom because of that G-hook kind of rigger's belt design that they've worked in there. I really love that Amsteel belt. As I mentioned, I do a lot of adjusting to my belt, and that thing's just so fast, and yet it holds well, it carries weight well. If you want to, you can change it out. Just a super nice feature there, guys. So this saddle has tons of adjustability, but it's also one of the cheapest on the market. So if you're a guy who just wants to get into this, you think you might want a little more minimalistic design from a saddle that, in my opinion, is still very comfortable, I would heartily recommend to you the Custom Gear Modifications Sidewinder. I think it's just the best bang for buck in a saddle that I've seen on the market yet. So thanks for watching this video. I appreciate you guys' support, and I hope you're getting your gear all ready for the fall.